What's up, everyone? Welcome to our NBA Top 10 Centers list, where we're going to go over who we think are the top 10 centers in the NBA right now. We've each made our own list up here. So let's start off with, do you have any honorable mentions?
So honorable mention for me, I just have one, Kristaps Porzingis.
Okay.
Oh, just a disclaimer, because basketball, as it grows into a more positionless game as we go throughout these rankings, we're going to go based off of what ESPN has these guys listed at.
Yeah.
We're not really concerned about positions. We're just concerned about the rankings.
Yeah.
So Kristaps is positioned as a center on ESPN, so that's why I have him as my only honorable mention. What about you?
Yeah, it's the same for me here. It's
Just the one?
just Kristaps, yeah.
All right, so who do you have at 10?
At number 10, I have Jared Allen.
Okay, not bad.
Jared Allen, I think he will only increase his value, and he could push his way up this list.
Yeah.
In a full season in Cleveland, he's
Yep.
not battling for touches with Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Obviously, he didn't play with Harden because he was part of that deal.
Yep.
But the touches are going to be there for him. An elite defender. If you wanted to argue, you could argue him in the top 3 in terms of defensive centers.
Yep.
In this game, so really a dark horse for defensive player of the year every year. And he's capable offensively in the low post. So I really like Jared Allen. Obviously, I like 9 guys a little more than him right now.
Yeah.
But he's at number 10 for me. So
He's a guy that's also going to climb up my list, and I forgot to mention him as an honorable mention. I don't have him yet.
Okay.
But at 10, I have Deandre Ayton. It's been up and down for him.
Yeah.
For the most part, playoffs, he was great. This regular season, overall, he was good. He was solid.
It was his best year.
Yeah, and he was a big piece of that big 3 in Phoenix that brought them to the finals.
He's looking more and more worthy of being a number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, for sure. So he's growing into that, and I think he'll get to earning it, you would think, and you would hope, especially in Phoenix, but I have DeAndre Ayton at 10.
Okay. So at number 9.
Yeah.
Well, how about you start at number 9 this time?
Sure. So at 9, I have Jonas Valanciunas.
Okay.
The offense is there. Surprisingly, pretty good defensively. He's been a solid piece.
He's always been a solid guy.
Yeah.
Really underrated.
Yeah.
He's actually who I have at 9 as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice. So at 8, who do you have?
Before we move to 8 quick, just one more note on Valanciunas. I really like the situation he's going to be in New Orleans, playing alongside the front court with Brandon Ingram, with Zion Williamson.
Yep.
I think it's a great fit.
Yeah.
I think he'll really help Devontae Graham develop more of a pick and roll game.
Yep.
And not necessarily a 3-point centric game like Devontae Graham has been playing lately.
And he's going to have more people to rely on than he's had in the past, especially up front.
Yeah,
he never really had that in Toronto, kinda, and he didn't really, because Siakam was still young.
Yeah.
And he didn't really have that in Memphis.
Yeah.
So it's a better position for him to be in. So at 8, I have Christian Wood.
Okay.
He's been really, I think he's been doing really well in Houston. He's been growing his game, and especially with them in the rebuild, I think he's going to be more relied upon, and he's going to be one of their stable pieces as they develop.
I agree with that in a sense, but I just need to see more out of Christian Wood.
Yeah, totally fair.
He's a guy that I was going to include in my honorable mentions, forgot to mention him there. So he's just outside for me.
He was just really efficient this year.
He was efficient.
Given more minutes, I'm very curious to see how that impacts his game, because if he puts up bigger numbers with more minutes.
Yeah. I think if he gets bigger minutes,
maybe,
he's the only I just need to see 30. Those bigger minutes before I commit to saying that
totally
he's a top
fair.
10.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Yeah. At number 8, I have Clint Capela.
Okay.
I think Clint Capela I think it's because he's playing on the same team as Trae Young.
Yep.
Obviously, Trae Young gets a lot of the limelight when it comes to that.
But they have
Hawks
a serious
team.
big 3 there.
Yeah.
And that's who I have at 7.
That guy is a walking rebound.
Yeah.
An absolute walking rebound. Just... he's brilliant defensively too. I think he's really the one that got away for Houston. I don't think that they...
for sure.
I don't think that
I
they
hated
really...
that they dealt him.
Exactly. And I could see that he was going to turn into this, but they just weren't giving him the time of day in Houston.
Yeah.
I'm glad he went to Atlanta. I'm glad that he's having the success he's having. He just needs to stay healthy. But he's a guy that, I think 8 can I was trying to argue him a little higher, but I think 8 is the right spot for him right now. You have him at 7.
I have him at 7. So who do you have at 7?
At 7, this is where I have DeAndre Ayton.
Oh, okay.
And I'm buying into DeAndre Ayton's performance that he had into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Maybe not his finals performance. He did struggle a bit in the finals.
That's the
having to
big
play
show,
Brook
and he's
Lopez.
young. He's still a kid. So
yeah, I think he'll only get better. I liked what I saw from him this season, especially in the first 3 rounds of the playoffs.
Yeah.
He does need to find that consistency, and it seems like he's got to get out of his own head.
Yeah.
It seems like it's really a mental game for him right now, and Monty Williams has worked wonders with him.
Yeah, great coach.
But I like DeAndre Ayton. He's an absolute dominant force in the low post offensively.
Yep.
And defensively, he's sound as well. So
yeah. So at 6, I have Bam Adebayo.
So do I, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Great player, lockdown defender, can score. He's all over the
sure.
place, and he's undersized, but he still gets the job done.
Yeah.
Just as a team, Miami wasn't all there.
Yeah.
So I think he can climb this list. There's a lot of potential for him to do so, but right now I can't have him any higher than 6.
I think if we did this list last year, he'd be a lot higher. So I think he definitely slipped. But yeah, when you recall what he did in the bubble in 2020
against Boston,
he single-handedly beat Boston. It seemed their bigs couldn't handle him in the post. So
no, you definitely need an above average.
Yeah. And now he's got that gold medal experience under his belt there. Just another thing that will help elevate his game moving forward.
Yeah. At 5, I have Karl Anthony Towns.
I also have Karl Anthony Towns here. We didn't coordinate this beforehand. We did this, kept these lists.
All our lists
private.
are done separately. When we work together, it just takes forever because we distract each other.
I think centers are a little easier to decipher. There's a little more discrepancy in other positions, but
that is a good point because you either have your defensive centers and your offensive centers like Cat here.
Yeah.
He just does a great job. And
so in the case for Karl Anthony Towns, both of us, we like we've said, have him at 5. Karl Anthony Towns, I think on a better team would be a lot higher. I think he has top 3 potential for sure. He has potential to be the best center in the game.
Yep.
And I think a few years ago, some people may have considered him as that. But Karl Anthony Towns, it seems like he's growing tired of Minnesota's losing.
And
the injuries have taken a toll on him as well.
We have guys ahead of him. Obviously, Jokic and Embiid are on our list.
Yeah.
They've just grown at a faster rate, and they've surpassed him. They were always better, but Towns hasn't kept up. Simply because of his teams, because Denver, Philadelphia are both way better than Minnesota.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily that Karl Anthony Towns has slipped per se.
No.
It's just that other people have just risen that much higher.
Yep.
So with that, we'll move to 4 now. Who do you have at 4?
Yeah, I have Nikola Vuchevich.
Okay.
I think he really stepped up this season.
He did.
Playing in Orlando, he put up great numbers, and you weren't sure what was going to happen when he was traded to Chicago, but he kept it up. Chicago could have been a playoff team, had injuries to Zach LaVine not hurt them. But he's been a solid piece, a go-to guy for both franchises. A guy to really build around, which you wouldn't have thought of. You would have thought of him more as an above-average center, but he's stepping into the elite territory.
Yeah, he took it to another level this year.
Yeah. So who do you have at 4?
I have Rudy Gobert at number 4. And I think Rudy Gobert is probably the best defensive center.
No question.
In all of, I think, he's definitely in the top 3, but I would put him.
He earned his DPOY.
Yeah, he's earned both of his DPOYs. So
yeah, for sure.
I put him outside of the top 3 just because I think the offensive capabilities aren't as high as the guys that I have in my top 3.
Yep. So who do you have at 3?
So at 3, I have Vučević.
And so we have known him till now as a good offensive center, but he really stepped up defensively this year. That's where it's no surprise to me that he's this high now.
And it's just how dominant he is on the glass as well.
Yeah.
He was already a very strong rebounder, but he's an elite rebounder in my opinion. With the likes of guys like what Andre Drummond was doing when he was in his all-star years.
Yep.
What guys like Karl Anthony Towns can do. There's a lot of guys that are just dominant when it comes to rebounding, and I think he's arguably the best rebounding center, arguably the best rebounder in the game right now. So,
yeah.
And Nikola Vučević, not to mention he can put up 20 plus points a night as well. So he's really someone that he could very well be the best player that the Bulls have, but he's just not going to be the most talked about when you've got guys like DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, and Zach LaVine, of course.
No.
But I think in terms of those Bulls players, he's
currently the best.
He's the best out of all those
Bulls players. He's just overlooked
but no
because
one
he's not the
him.
most marketable.
And it's because the game is also going smaller that there's less focus on centers. But
Yep. I have Rudy Gobert.
Okay.
If I had to choose between the two just to build my team around, I'm choosing Gobert because he has the resume.
Yep.
That doesn't mean it won't change.
Yeah.
I'm just not there yet, right? Because I kind of pushed Vuce up my list, right? Because you think a season ago and based off his resume, he wouldn't be that high.
Yeah.
So I think for now, this is me being more safe than anything.
Okay.
And having Gobert at 3. So at 2, who do you have?
I have Joel Embiid.
Okay.
And I think it's the injuries that bring Joel Embiid down. And
Yeah.
Joel Embiid is very talented. He's worthy of MVP nominations. I don't think he was overly worthy of an MVP nomination this year, just because he missed around 20 games this year.
That was the injuries, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the injuries have taken a toll on him. It's added a little bit of inconsistency to his game, but when he's on the floor, the guy's a powerhouse. He's a threat from 3.
Yeah.
He's a threat inside. So he's certainly the second best defensive center in the game. Certainly worthy of the Defensive Player of the Year nominations that he's gotten.
Yeah.
So he's always in that conversation, and offensively, he's an absolute force. Like I said, he can do it from 3. He can do it from inside. So that's why I think Joel Embiid is number 2 on this list. Who do you have at number 2?
So you obviously have this guy number 1. I have Jokic at number 2 and Embiid at number 1.
Yeah.
This was so tough, and even as we're filming this, I'm flipping back and forth between the two. But for me, I personally would fear Embiid more than Jokic in a general situation to play against because, like you said, Embiid's the second best defensive center in the league, but he's also a huge threat offensively. Now, Jokic is a freak in terms of playmaking. You've never seen anything like this from the center. So that's really where it's really tough because these guys play so differently. It's hard to compare the two, and it's hard to compare their impact overall. But I think Embiid, given the right situation, a team like Denver, who's a lot more stable than Philadelphia, I think he would have more success than Jokic has had to this point.
Now, here's where I disagree with that. I think Nikola Jokic, you said that Embiid was, I guess, more daunting when it came to facing him. I disagree in the sense that, like you had mentioned it, he's very crafty. He's kind of an absolute wizard when it comes to playmaking. And I think that makes him threatening because there's times when you think he's going to post up on you and then he'll just throw one over his shoulder to a backdoor cut. I think also, too, defensively, he's not as good as Embiid.
No.
But I think he makes up for that offensively. I think the passing game is what elevates him that much more.
Scoring-wise, they're similar. Like, they may play slightly different of styles.
Yeah.
But it's Jokic's playmaking that makes up for Embiid being superior defensively. That's where they're pretty even, but I understand where you're coming from, where you can view either of these guys as better. I'm personally Team Embiid. I don't think it's clear cut yet. It can be.
See, I would say it's clear cut this year because I don't see how you can rank the reigning MVP lower than
that's fair.
Embiid, and it's the fact that both of them were nominated.
Yeah.
And that the votes came in that Jokic was better. So I think in terms of this, like if you want to say overall resume, I'm giving the nod to Jokic. I think a lot of people sleep on Jokic. I don't think
he has been slept on, I'll admit.
I don't think you can rank the reigning MVP lower than number 1 at their position unless there was a freak injury that took place. And I don't think there was a freak injury in terms of Embiid because he was still nominated for MVP. And Jokic
that's the other
beat
thing
him out.
I'm looking at those 20 games.
Yeah.
And I felt a full season, you would have seen more of what Embiid can do.
It would have been closer, but I think the fact that, we also don't know what would have happened in those 20 games as well.
Of course.
So based on everything, I think it's clear-cut this year. Whether it's clear-cut next year, it'll depend on if Jokic can repeat his MVP and if Embiid stays healthy. But right now, I think it's as clear-cut as it's going to get between those two.
Yeah.
And it'll only be each of them kind of jogging with each other to see who's going to get number one.
I mean, I guess we'll see. I'm still going to stick to my guns here. I just have more faith in Embiid for now. But
be confident in your selection.
We'll see how it all plays out.
And with that, that'll do it for our NBA Top 10 Centers list. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, give it a like down below. Subscribe so you don't miss any of our other uploads. We've got a lot of Top 10s coming in both the NBA and the NHL. Stay tuned for those. And with that, we will see you in the next video. Peace.